Hello, Professor Ahmet Sözen. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let me just say a couple of words as an introduction to you, and then we can start our dialogue. You are a professor of international relations at the Eastern Mediterranean University. I think we first met in your capacity as one of the founding members of Cyprus 2015, which was a study looking at aspirations, wishes, and opinions of Greek and Turkish Cypriots vis-a-vis the Cyprus problem. I decided to have this podcast and also to have you as an invitee because it is my firm belief that Cypriots, both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, really do not know what the other side wants, things, what is happening. And even though crossings have increased over the years, crossings via the Green Line, it seems that there's a part of the population that does go to the other side, wherever they may be. But the vast majority really would not know more about the other side that they might know about Venezuela or anywhere else in the world. So I think it's one of the tragedies of Cyprus. Now, I think another key problem of Cyprus is that we never ask the experts on whatever is happening. Everybody knows everything. And there are people that do research, spend their life actually analyzing those issues. It's, it's almost like a football team. You're with this team or the other team, and whatever happens, that's what you believe. However, you have spent, I would say, decades maybe, looking at data about Cyprus, and I know right now, I know right now you're in Germany because there was a conference called Beyond Conflict and Coexistence. You are in the Heidelberg University, where there was a relevant conference. Your presentation is the Cyprus problem after Erhman's election, if I'm not mistaken, the title of that. And I would like to briefly have an overview of what is the presentation about, and then we can go into specific questions emanating from that. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anδρούλλα. I actually came back from Germany.
Okay.
I was on a couple of day seminar series in a way. First, I was at Heidelberg University, where I had a presentation on the last 25 years of Turkish Cypriot presidential elections. It was like a pendulum kind of thing that the Turkish Cypriots have been behaving in these elections since 2000. After Mr. Denktaş, they elected a pro-solution, and then the next one back to anti-solution, next one pro-solution. So I use the pendulum metaphor to explain it. And the next day I was in Tübingen University, invited this time by the International Relations Department, together with a Greek Cypriot colleague, Dr. Konstantinos Adamidis, where we talked about the current affairs of the Cyprus issue, opportunities, threats, and whatnot. So it was a 2-day sort of heavy tour. Now, to go into the specifics, why I looked at the Turkish Cypriot elections, especially presidential elections, why it is significant, because although the northern part of Cyprus is an unrecognized country, and it is in fact a parliamentary system, the president is not the head of the executive. it's only a symbolic role. But historically, although the country is not recognized, the presidential election results, in the eyes of the international community, put forward the legitimate leader of the Turkish Cypriot community. So whoever is elected is treated by the international community as the chief negotiator for Cyprus issue, and the legitimate, let's say, leader of the Turkish Cypriot community, not necessarily president of TRNC, which is not recognized. So in that sense, it is important. So in a way, in every 5 years, the Turkish Cypriots, in electing their leader, in a way put forward a message for the relevant sides, including Greek Cypriot side, including international community, including Turkey, and the other guarantors. And they calibrate their message each time. So, for example, in 2005, they elected Mehmet Ali Talat, giving the message that, hey, look, we are ready for a partnership. We are ready for reunification. We are ready for a federal solution. Let's give this guy a chance. All right? And in 2010, 5 years later, when things were not resolved, in a way, they gave another message. They said, okay, you don't like Mr. Talat? Try Mr. Erol, a nationalist who is not a pro-solution, and see if we can solve it. Then, again, 5 years later, the pendulum again, they gave Mr. Akıncı. And it didn't work. 2020, they elected Tatar. Of course, there was Turkish interventions into the elections and whatnot, or at least allegations and whatnot. But this time, there was a pro-solution, left-wing progressive guy, Tufan Erhürman, and he had a very clear majority, 60+% votes. So in a way, the Turkish Cypriot side is telling Greek Cypriot side in that sense that we are ready if you are ready to sit down. Here you are. This is the guy to try this. Also a message to the international community that we are ready for a partnership. And also a message to Turkey that, okay, you are a very important ally of Turkish Cypriots. We appreciate your alliance, but do not intervene into our internal affairs. So in that sense, I mean, Turkish Cypriots, small community, not a nuclear power. So the only instrument that they can use is the election or democratic, let's say, protest and whatnot, which they use from time to time. So I think that this was a very interesting case that in the last quarter century, it was like a pendulum.
But I had a brief insight into your presentation, and thank you for sharing it beforehand, just to prepare for this interview. But you talk about Erhürman being a window for process, but not necessarily a window for settlement.
Yes.
Can you please explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. It's not just Erhürman, but Erhürman's election, I mean, as opposed to, let's say, his main challenger, Mr. Tatar, who was a very clear two-state advocate, was or is, in fact, an opportunity to start the dialogue. And he did, as you saw in the last couple of months. Holguin is in Cyprus now for the second time. So there is a process. But it in itself is not enough to open a path towards a resumption of formal talks, because you need, for example, at least the Greek Cypriot leader to be in line in the same format and methodology and whatnot. Plus, even if the two leaders agree on the Cyprus problem, I'm afraid, I've been saying this since 2020. In an interview I told to a British newspaper in 2020 that unfortunately Cyprus became a meze, an appetizer in a bigger geopolitical table. So in a way, you need to get the regional important actors also aligned. And I haven't seen that alignment yet. I need to see, for example, Turkey, Greece, Israel. I mean, the guys in the Eastern Mediterranean to buy into this process, and that's not the case yet.
In fact,
Yeah.
I was sorry to interrupt you, but I was going to ask you your view of the general geopolitical environment right now, and also you present some scenarios for 2026. First of all, I have to say you're very brave about presenting any scenarios in the current context of Cyprus negotiations, whatever. I think many scenarios have been presented, but you do a very interesting analysis of those scenarios. Can you tell us how you read the geopolitical context and what your scenarios are, please?
Look, as you rightly put it, Anδρούλλα, we are going through a very dramatic time. This is the time of tectonic power shifts. So making prediction is absolutely very difficult. But in general, of course, you might talk about an optimistic scenario, a very pessimistic, and something in between. And this is what I've done. Indeed, reading the current geopolitics is very difficult. We can just maybe do some assumptions. Now, my assumption is this. Basically, Turkey is a very important actor that you need on board in Cyprus to be able to have a solution, in addition to the other actors. And currently, Turkey is not there simply because I think its relations with Israel is very tense. Its relations with Greece, although they are two NATO members, are not really eye to eye on all the issues. So those are not there. And long story short, for Turkey's buy-in this environment, I think Turkey needs to be more aligned and more integrated with whatever the future European security architecture is going to be, if there will be anything like that, independent of NATO or independent of United States. It's not clear. So, for example, in SAFE, Turkey's being blocked by Greece and the Republic of Cyprus was not really a very, let's say, constructive way of getting things aligned. The other problematic theater is the Eastern Mediterranean. And although Turkey is a huge actor there, one of the biggest, let's say, littoral country, it's not really integrated into the equation in the Eastern Mediterranean. For whatever reason, I'm not saying Turkey is innocent or Turkey's foreign policy was correct and whatnot. In fact, it was isolated in the region due to partly its own policies. But nonetheless, if you want to solve problems in this region, you cannot really solve problems by isolating one of the most important actors in the region. So unless those geopolitical shifts are aligned in the correct way, I don't see any solution in sight. Okay. If those geopolitical alignments are there, the optimistic scenario is that there will be a resumption of talks. And we'll see whether Mr. Christodoulidis is really, what is the right word, is really I'm missing the word. If he's serious and genuine in wanting a federal solution, we'll see. It needs to be tested.
Okay.
The very pessimistic scenario is that although Cyprus is a frozen conflict, we are going through in this disruption era that no frozen conflict is frozen. So a very small incident in the buffer zone can get things, bring things to south. But the most optimistic scenario is somewhere in the middle, meaning that with some dialogue and whatnot, things will drag on in Cyprus. And of course, the EU presidency of the Republic of Cyprus, during that time, it's not realistic to expect any resumption of any tangible and genuine process, in my opinion.
In fact, you touched on a number of issues. First, with respect to the SAFE program, I know that there is this narrative that Turkey was primarily blocked by Cyprus and Greece. In fact, the truth is not there. I can tell you that Turkey has bought big military equipment manufacturers in other member states of the EU, and through those they're already in a way participating. Secondly, in SAFE, you have countries like Canada participating, which is not exactly a European country, but they met the preconditions, and of course there is also financial implications. A country participating has to contribute, and they have met. So I know that it is projected as Turkey wanted Cyprus and Greece, and I would say certain other member states did not want Turkey participate. So on that one, I think a clarification is needed. What is also interesting, and you touched upon it, is the role and the relationships between Turkey and Israel. We saw initially when the famous 20-point plan by President Trump was put on the table. Turkey wanted to provide even military to
boots on the ground.
Yes, boots on the ground to oversee the implementation of this agreement. Then there were noises from Israel saying, no, Turkey cannot participate. Now we have the Board of Peace where in fact Turkey is participating, and also President Netanyahu was one of the signatories, although he was unable to go to Switzerland to vote because he was going to get arrested. So the big players in the area, we have a scenario that says Turkey and Israel don't get on together. All of a sudden something happens, Turkey and Israel are on the same board. So it's like a moving set of geopolitical alliances, and it's not black and white.
It is not, absolutely, you're right.
We want to simplify everything into, they're with us or against us, but, this is not how the game is played internationally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and within all of this context, you have Cypriots on both sides, some fearing a potential reunification, some dreaming of a potential reunification, and unfortunately a very large percentage of both sides do not know what the other side actually wants and thinks. And for me, that's the biggest tragedy, because positions are taken not because but because you've adopted a particular narrative which is promoted by politicians, I think, on both sides. So you've made these scenarios for the future. I know it's probably an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If you had to bet where we would be by the end of 2026, stalemate, backwards or forwards, where would you put your bet?
I would say in the stalemate.
Stalemate.
Because look, during, as I said, the presidency, that's until July, nothing substantive is going to happen. Maybe some confidence building measures. Mm-hmm. And then you have the summer, and diplomatic community goes to hibernation during the summer, whether we like it or not. Until UNGA, and I'm not sure where United Nations is going to be in September,
would it exist?
October.
Would it exist by September?
So, I mean, unless Trump eyes, I made a joke about a year ago, and it's not a joke anymore, I think. When I saw Mr. Tatar in one of the meetings, I said, watch out, Mr. Tatar, that if Trump eyes the fenced area of Varosha, he might want to turn it into a touristic Riviera. And it was a joke. But I mean, today I go back and look at it. It might not be a joke. I mean, if there is a Trump effect like on Gaza, in Cyprus, although Cyprus has not been in the radar of Mr. Trump yet, but if it enters, who knows what kind of effect. But ceteris paribus, with all the variables remaining sort of constant, my bet is the stalemate will continue in 2026. Yeah.
I want to end this exchange
with a positive one.
With a positive note. So I want to ask you, as an academic, do you see a lot of cooperation with Greek Cypriot academics when you're discussing, scientifically looking at the problem? Do you have a lot of cooperation? Is it increasing? I hope at least the academic community.
Not really. Look, on a personal level, of course. On a personal level, of course. I mean, people on the other side, in the Greek Cypriot side, both in University of Cyprus or in University of Nicosia, I mean, they are good friends. So on a personal level, we have absolutely no problem. We come together, we appear on same panel, not in Cyprus mostly, or if in Cyprus, we don't use our affiliations, we use just Professor Ahmet Sözen, but doesn't mention Eastern Mediterranean University or whatever. But on an institutional level, one-to-one university, unfortunately, we don't have any kind of contact, any kind of cooperation. And I personally tried since 2004 when I returned Cyprus after finishing my studies and all that. But unfortunately, that has not been possible on an institutional level.
So my attempt to finish on a optimistic note has failed. The reality,
just like the Cyprus problem.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
And thank you for sharing the results of your studies and the work you're doing. And I do hope, at least at an academic level, at least at a research level,
at the scientific
there is
level,
openness of mind to hear the other side, if not necessarily to agree, but we have to know what the other side thinks.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So, Professor Sözen, thank you very much, and for spending this time with us. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, dear Anδρούλλα.